Are the Seahawks open to trading up to go and get their quarterback? It's a question that I find myself considering a lot more over the last few days. I wrote an article about this on the Seahawks draft blog, just throwing it out there, thinking out loud. Would the Seahawks be interested in moving up? But as the time has gone on, I feel really interested in the thought and want to discuss it a bit more here today. So we do know that the Seahawks have met with Jayden Daniels. That was reported. And then Ian Rappaport quote tweeted that and said basically all of the teams that met with Jayden Daniels met with Drake Maye as well. So these are the teams that are in the market for a big name quarterback. The big three, of course, being Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, and Jayden Daniels. So it made me wonder a little bit, are the Seahawks really interested here in moving up? And Drake Maye, if we're being really honest, I'm not a huge Drake Maye fan. Some people are, some people aren't. Some people were saying he was going to be the number one overall pick during the season. They've kind of gone quiet now. I've never been a huge Drake Maye fan. But you cannot help but look at the guy and think, that's a John Schneider quarterback. Scrambling, improvising, taking chances, gunslinger, big, tall, strong arm, does crazy things like Brett Favre, like runs to the left-hand side on a scramble and can't throw it right-handed, so switches the ball to his left and throws it left-handed for a touchdown, getting sacked and two defenders draped all over him, and he two-handed passes it to the running back for a first down. He takes a lot of risks, and at times at UNC made a lot of magic happen, and that's kind of a John guy. And then you listen to him speak, and he sounds like a John guy. I just think there is a really good chance that John Schneider has seen Drake Maye and gone, that's my guy. That's who I want. I've been waiting a long time to draft a quarterback. We traded Russell Wilson. We need a long-term option. That's the one I want. It's plausible. And look, they've just hired somebody who was the offensive coordinator at Arizona State, who's worked at Jayden Daniels as well and has a relationship there. So maybe they kind of think, hey, we'll go up to number 3, like the Niners did when they got Trey Lance, and go, we'll have any of the top 3. We'll have Caleb Williams, we'll have Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye. Give us the number 3 pick, New England, and we'll just see who's there when we get there. And listen, is it realistic? No, because to get from 16 to 3 is going to be really bloody difficult, because it's going to cost you a fortune and you're going to have to outbid all of the teams in front of you, like New York or the Falcons or the Broncos or the Vikings, to get to number 3. So it's really, really, really challenging. But I keep coming back to this point. At some point, John Schneider is going to have to do something at the quarterback position. And that's not a review of Geno Smith. I don't want to get into all of that again. It's not to say that Geno Smith is useless and must be immediately replaced or else. It's about John Schneider is now in charge of this team. He is going to want a quarterback who he believes can come in and be, like one of the best, one of the very best in the league, and sort of define this new era of Seahawks football. He's a Green Bay guy. They're defined by their quarterbacks. He loved Mahomes. He saw the Chiefs go up and get Mahomes, really aggressive, go and get their guy. 3 Super Bowls later, they're a dynasty. Andy Reid's on the podium at the Combine. Andy, what's the secret to success? Get yourself a good quarterback. John has watched the 2 guys that he really liked. Mahomes, Chiefs traded up to go and get him. Josh Allen, Bills traded up to go and get him. I think he is very, very, very open to trading up and getting a quarterback. And while most people are not even talking about this, a few people are. But while most people aren't, the idea that John is just going to keep going every year doing the same thing, shucks. The quarterbacks just weren't there for us. We'll have another go next year. How long do you wait? Because unless the Seahawks plan is to be really awful this season and pick in the top 5, you ain't going to get close. Or unless the plan is to hope that somebody falls into your lap, not much of a plan, that is it. As it did for the Seahawks with Russell Wilson, or it did with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson. That doesn't happen very often. It's not really a plan. Let's just hope that somebody falls into our lap. But in the meantime, we'll just plod on. That's the recipe to be a 9-win team every single year. At some point, they are going to either have to get very lucky at quarterback, or they're going to have to be aggressive to go up and get one. And I think every year now until they find that answer, something like trading up in this year's draft is going to be on the table. And you might say, well, you're stating the obvious. Well, maybe. But I don't think John's just sort of saying, well, do you know, I'm open minded to everything. I bet he's doing the rounds. I bet he's talking to these teams. I bet he's trying to find out what it would take. He's assessing his options. And maybe he gets back to Seattle at the end of the combine and goes, we can't do it. It's just not possible. But I think that he will be trying to see if he can get up, trying to see if there is a route to move up and get someone like Drake Maye or Jayden Daniels. That's my thought. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about why I think that, and I'm going to talk about the one scenario that perhaps could make it happen. So Schneider was on 710 yesterday. Some of the things he was saying, it was a 25-minute interview, but here's kind of the key talking points. He said that talks with other teams kind of heat up now. It's like right now, today. That's when they discuss potential trades. He literally said that. Now is when they start talking about potential trades and stuff, he said. Up until now, it had basically been a lot of meetings with agencies, talking about your free agents. The whole NFL is talking about other people's free agents as well. It's just everyone turns a blind eye. But that's what goes on up until this point. And now the teams start talking, and that's when potential trades get discussed. When he was asked about strengths and weaknesses in the draft, he dodged the question, which most GMs would. He started talking about it's really hard to say what's a strong position or not until you've got the medical grades, which is a fair point. However, he ended that question by just going back to the thing he keeps bringing up over and over again. He keeps saying, do you know what? We've only drafted 2 quarterbacks in 14 years, and we're not proud of that. And look, it's an interesting quarterback group, and I can't wait to watch them throw. He keeps bringing up the fact that this is their record, that only drafting 2 quarterbacks in 14 years. Now, maybe it's a complete smokescreen, and he's just trying to set people off into a wrong direction. Maybe this has all been one great ruse, so we can just draft one more offensive lineman and crack on that way. I don't know. I mean, like, if people said that to me, I couldn't really come up with a firm retort that would disagree with that. But my personal thought on it all is just that I think he's just itching to draft someone. I think John probably enjoys scouting quarterbacks more than any other position. And I think he takes a lot of pride in his quarterback evaluations, which is why 5 minutes, not even that, after Patrick Mahomes has been selected by the Chiefs, that Ian Rappaport saying the Seahawks would have took him if it had lasted. Because I think John just had such a conviction about Mahomes, he wanted the world to know it. So Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter, whoever it was, gets that information straight after the pick. I genuinely believe that. And I think he takes a lot of pride in his QB evaluations. And I think it is, if you'd have said to him, right, what's going to happen, John, is you're going to trade away Russell Wilson. You could get an absolute mountainous haul from Denver. And then 2 years later, you're not going to have drafted any quarterbacks. I don't think he necessarily would have believed you on that. And then if you sort of going into, and then the third year, you don't do it either. And then maybe after 4 years, you'll draft a quarterback. That doesn't seem very John Schneider to me. So I think he's absolutely itching to draft a quarterback. And, it's very possible that all this took, we've got to see what the medical grades are, is because there are more than one quarterback in this class that they'd be prepared to take. There is a part of me that thinks they are just going to take the best player available at 16 or after a small trade down. I totally get that. And the best player available might be an offensive lineman because it's a great offensive lineman. Or it could be one of these great pass rushers like Chop Robinson or whoever. I think he'd be fantastic at 16. I genuinely accept that there's a definite chance that could happen. I also think there's a really good chance that the Seahawks are going to draft a quarterback. Possibly with their first pick. Possibly after trading out. Possibly after trading up. I think that they're going to have to go, okay, we need to draft somebody here. We need to take a chance on somebody. Geno can be a bridge, but we need to take a chance on a quarterback, get him in the building, see if they can be the long-term answer and keep going and do what Green Bay did. Take a shot. They have Brett Favre, to draft Aaron Rodgers in the late first. They've got Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Then they go and draft Brian Brom in the second round. Aaron Rodgers works out. He's fantastic. They go and draft Jordan Love when it's getting towards the end. That's Green Bay. And I think John might start doing a bit of that. Drafting quarterbacks. Find the answer. And Geno Smith could well start this year and be on the roster this year. But it's time to start drafting quarterbacks. And I think that they could. And it won't, like I say, I'm talking about a trade up in a minute. It could be Michael Penix. It could be Bo Nix. It could be Spencer Rattler. It could be JJ McCarthy. It could be, I don't think it's, I keep seeing Joe Miller. I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. But anyway, what else did he say? He said, when asked about the importance of doing everything in terms of testing at the Combine and the Senior Bowl, he also mentioned how much value he places in players playing in their bowl games. Just saying, Bo Nix was the only standout example I could find of somebody who did this who didn't need to. Oregon were playing Liberty. It was a terrible matchup in a bowl game. And Nix played in it. A lot of the other Oregon players did not. Jackson Powers Johnson, the center, chose not to play. Troy Franklin, the receiver, chose not to play. Bo Nix chose to play. So when John said, yeah, it's important to test, it's important the Senior Bowl, but in his world, it's still important to play your team's bowl game. And Bo Nix was the main example of somebody who did that, because the Washington guys, the Texas guys, the Alabama guys, the Michigan guys were all going to play in their bowl games because it was the playoffs. Bo Nix was somebody who played in his bowl game, tore up Liberty when he had no reason to do so. So I thought that was interesting as well. It may indicate that they really respect that about Bo Nix. And then towards the end, he was asked a very important question about meeting with Drake Maye and Jayden Daniels and the reason for doing that. And here's the quote from John Schneider. We have to be ready for anything. We don't know if a certain trade will go down or something happens. You guys have seen players fall in the past that teams have been able to jump up and have successful trades moving into the top 10 to grab guys. So yeah, you just have to be prepared for everything. That to me, what are you preparing for? Somebody else to trade up for them? Unless he is just pulling the wool over everybody's eyes, that to me sounds like we're open to trading up. That's what it sounds like. And maybe that answer suggests that it might be too much for them to trade into the top 3. But what if Drake Maye lasts to 5, let's say? Could you move up to 5? What if he lasts to 6, 7? What if he gets to 8? You're moving up. That's what happened with Josh Allen. He lasted to 7. Is that sort of the mindset? You never know. They might just last a bit longer than you think. Could be. Or maybe you never know what could happen is that you never know we might be able to move up to number 3. So I think there's something in this. I'm not predicting it's going to happen. I just think it's worth talking about. I don't understand the lack of curiosity among some sections of this fan base. I think these are cool things to talk about at the time when there's no games to talk about. So I think that there is some possibility here. Now, how could it happen to get to number 3? Because like I said, you'd have to outbid all of the teams. You'd have a second-round pick. I mean, there have been teams who've gone from this kind of range to 3. The Niners did it for Trey Lance, went from 12 to 3. And the Texans last year went from, I think it was 12 as well, to number 3 to go and get CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. So teams have done that. Generally, it's like a couple of extra firsts. So if the Seahawks were going to do it, it'd be their 16 pick, next year's first after. Or, a combination of players and picks. It'd be very expensive. But if you think you have the guy, and when you actually look at the offense and you go, DK, Jazz Smith and Jigba, 2 running backs, top 10 left tackle, you look at the defense, and as much as we all might go, they can bring Leonard Williams back, and Jaron Reed, Boye Mafe, Chenna Nwosu. They've drafted Derek Hall very early, Devin Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen. What else is going to happen? Is Quandre Diggs going to be back? If he isn't, then he's there. Might be a way to create a bit of money and, bring Jordan Brooks back. They might actually think, as much as we don't think this, they might think, roster's pretty good. Roster's ready. We've been building for 2 years. Now's the time to go big. Go and give away 2 extra first rounders. Go and move up and get the quarterback. Go and get the thing that's going to get us over the top. Go and get the player who's going to lead us to glory. Go and get our Josh Allen. Go and get our... I'm not going to say go and get our Mahomes because it's Mahomes. But you see what I mean? Like, they might think that. And John might just think, F it. Let's go and do it. Let's go and get the guy. And if he has the conviction in Maye and Daniels that he had with Allen, Mahomes, Russell Wilson, maybe he'll just go and do it. Maybe he'll just go and trade up. Or maybe this whole thing is just him learning about this class so that he can make a decision. Do I want to trade up? Do I like the options at 16? Where's Bo Nix going to go? Where's Michael Penix going to go? Where's Spencer Rattler going to go? Where's JJ McCarthy going to go? But I think there's a really good chance that one way or another, the Seahawks come out of this draft with a quarterback drafted in the first 2 rounds. And maybe Penix would be ideal for them, given Grubb, everything. But maybe they're just not sure on the medicals. So for that reason, whoosh, straight up, trade up. Elliot Wolf's he's not the GM in New England. He's the personnel director, I think. He's the person making the decisions. Elliot Wolf has a relationship with John Schneider, of course. And John Schneider has a relationship with Ron Wolf. Could they strike a deal? Could they work on something? Maybe. We'll see. I don't think it's going to be boring. Maybe it will be. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll turn around in 2 months and go, that was boring. Didn't do anything. Just took the best player available at 16 and carry on. I just don't think the Seahawks are going to be boring under John Schneider. And I don't know. Because when you go into next season, the thought of just adding, doing what you've done for the last couple of years, which has been fine, just keep adding talent, but not necessarily finding elite blue chip players, just getting good players. Are you getting any closer to the Niners? Is the coaching change enough of a change this year to think, actually, we could close the gap with different coaches, different structures, different schemes, maybe? Or maybe being a bit bolder on top of that, getting a new quarterback, getting the new structures and everything, trying to take over the NFC. Maybe that'll be their approach instead. I'm fascinated by it. If you're not, you be you. But I'm intrigued to see what happens here. I don't think the odds are very likely that the Seahawks are going to trade up for a quarterback unless one falls on draft day. But I wouldn't rule it out. I think John's itching to draft a quarterback. I think that is going to be a big storyline within this draft from a Seahawks perspective as to whether they do finally draft a quarterback. I think that there are sufficient numbers within this class for the Seahawks to think we are going to take one. Without having a second-round pick, they are kind of limited in how they can do that, so it might have to be with their first pick. I just think it's a possibility. And I think it's something we should consider. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section. Live stream coming up later. It'll be a solo mission after all of the workouts, the cornerbacks and the tight ends. The cornerback workouts, the defensive back workouts are my least favorite of the combine. They go on forever. There's always too many coaches on the field doing all of them want to do a drill. One drill after another is exactly the same as the last one. It is tedious. The fact that they've shoehorned the tight ends to work with the defensive backs is a bit concerning. This could go on forever today. So we'll see whether it's going to be a particularly long stream. Live blog on SeahawksDraftBlog.com. So follow along with that for all of the data and some opinions on the workouts. And I'll do a recap article afterwards as well. Really busy weekend of combine stuff. I had about 3 hours sleep last night. Got up, ready to do it all again. Get the coffee on. Let's go. Lots of things to talk about. So let's talk about them. Subscribe, like the video, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the potential of the Seahawks going aggressive for a quarterback. I'll see you soon for the live blog. Until then, bye for now.